Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this video we're gonna learn how to knit socks using double pointed needles, and you will need 4 of them. And if you're a beginner, I recommend that you use the bamboo or the wood ones because the yarn is not as slippery on them like the metal ones, and I'll show you here. These are the metal ones and the yarn just slides on it better, I would say. But if you're a beginner, you don't want the stitches falling off your needles. So I recommend that you use wooden ones or bamboo, and these ones were very cheap. I got them on Amazon on a set of, I can't even remember. I think they were sized from like really small to really big, and they come in set of 5, but we're only going to use 4 because we're casting on 3 needles, and then we'll need the 4th needle to work with. And this has been a request. I do have a playlist of how to knit socks on double pointed needles, and I'll link it down below if you need videos for how to begin it, how to turn the heel, how to pick up stitches for the gusset, and all that. But in this video we're going to learn all in one, and also I will have a PDF downloadable pattern for you down in the description when I put up this video. I hope it all makes sense. So what you need for a pair of socks is 100 grams of sports weight. You could use worsted weight yarn. I have here Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Sport, and this is 100% Peruvian Highland wool, 50 grams. So I have 2 of these. One, I've already started the first sock, and this is for the second sock. I have to say I do prefer to knit socks on circular needles 2 at a time, but because so many people enjoy the double pointed needles and the way you turn the heel and pick up stitches for the gusset, it looks nicer obviously than just wraps and turns. So that's why I'm making this video. So for a pair of socks you need 2 of these, or 100 grams of Rowan worsted weight that you would split in half, 50 grams and 50 grams. But for this one I'm using Knit Picks, and 4 double pointed needles in 3.5 or 4 millimeter. And then what you need to do is leave a long tail, and we're going to do a long tail cast on. And I usually cast on 2 needles like this. So you do a slip knot. You hold your yarn like this, put your thumb and your finger like that, twist and pull through, and that is your slip knot. And then you take your 2 double pointed needles, and we're going to cast on 40 stitches, and this is how I cast on. Go under, pull through, twist, go under, pick up the yarn, pull through. Here's the slow one. So you want to cast on 40 stitches, and then we're going to split the stitches on the needles. Alright, so once you've done casting on your 40 stitches, we have to split them on 3 needles. So you pull out one of the needles that you used, and as you can see, it's hard to pull out because the wooden needles are good for beginners. The yarn doesn't slip on them as good as on the other ones, the metal ones. So now we need to put 16 needles on the first one, 16 stitches on the first needle, 16 stitches on the second needle, and then we'll be left with 8 stitches on the third needle. And this will be our first needle. So I'm going to transfer 16 stitches on it. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Then I'm going to pick another one and put 16 more. 2, 4, 6, 8, 16 stitches, and then we're left with 8 stitches on the third needle. And what you want to do is put them up with the bumps facing up like this, and this is how we're going to start to knit. So you arrange them in a triangle like this, and I'll show you. So this is my first needle, second needle, third needle. My yarn is coming from the back of the third needle. That's the tail. Let's move the tail out of the way. My yarn is coming from this third, I hope you can see, from this third needle here, as you can see. And with the pearl bumps facing up, I'm going to pick my work like this, and then I start to work in the pattern on my first needle. And you could use just knit one, purl one if you're doing a simple sock, but the one I'm showing you in my pattern is called the Wishbone Sock. So we do the Wishbone Stitch, which starts with a knit 1, yarn over, knit 2, S2KP, knit 2, yarn over, and repeat. So the row 1 would go like this: knit 1, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2, and then you want to do an S2KP, which means slip 2 as if to knit, knit 1, and pass the slipped stitches over the one that we just knitted. Then we're going to do a knit 2 and a yarn over. So we'll repeat this until the end of the round. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 2, S2KP, which is slip 2, knit 1, pass the slip stitches over, knit 2, yarn over. And we're on to our second needle, which is 16 stitches as well. And I'll speed this up to the end of the round and I'll show you row number 2. So I've done the row 1, and for row 2 and every other row, all we got to do is knit all stitches. And I just want to show you here that you kind of need to pull on this first and second round. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a gap there, and you got to just tighten it. So round number 2 is knit all stitches. So just pull on your work. That way it closes. And I won't show you how to do the next rounds because it's all written in the pattern. Just I've shown you how to do the yarn overs and the S2KPs. Let me just finish this needle. You continue working the pattern, and I've done a 6 times repeat, and this is what it looks like after you've repeated the 6 rows 6 times. As you can see, the wishbone stitch, you can see it quite nicely. Let me put my hand through it. And the cuff looks long enough, and from here you need to switch either to stockinette if you want to make it longer, or straight into the heel flap, and I will show you how to do that in the next segment of the video. The next part that we're going to work on, and I'm going to show you a little bit of it, is the heel flap. And I've done here the heel flap for one sock, and this is what it looks like. It's knitted in Eye of Partridge. This is how I've always called it, and I've always known it as the Eye of Partridge. Some people call it different, but this is the heel flap. And the reason why we use this stitch is because it makes it denser. As you can see, it's like not as stretchy, and it's stronger because it's at the back of the heel where your sock would rub if you wear it in the shoes. I quite like to wear my knitted socks at home or in bed better than in the shoes because they're quite thick. And I'm going to show you how to do this. And in the pattern, it will tell you how many stitches you need for the Eye of Partridge. And in order to get the count, we're going to have to move some stitches around from our needles because we have 16 stitches, 16 stitches and 8. So we need to have 20 stitches on the first needle, 10 and 10 on the other two needles. And on our first needle here, we have 16 stitches. So in order to make 20, we're going to have to slide from our second needle 4 more stitches. Oh, sorry. So just slide 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then we're going to put 2 stitches from needle 2 to needle 3 to make 10 on each. So we're just going to slide those 2 here. So if you're looking at the triangle again, like we looked at the beginning, we have 20 stitches on our first needle here, 10 stitches on our second, and 10 stitches on our third. And we're going to leave these 2 behind on the back there. If you can just clip them together like that to be out of the way, or you can just let them hang there in the back. And we're only going to focus on the 20 stitches on the first needle, and we're not going to work in the round anymore. We're going to work in the flat for 20 rows. And for that, I use my stitch counter, and I have my clover one here. Put it on the side, and this is how we're going to work. Pick your yarn, and we're going to start with a slip one, knit one, slip one, knit one, slip one, knit one, all the way to the end. That's our first row in the Eye of Partridge. And it's explained in the pattern exactly how you need to work it. So that's 20 stitches, and we're going to mark the first row. Then we're going to turn our work and work on the back of it as pearls. And it says, in the pattern you will say slip the first stitch with the yarn in the front like this. Oh, sorry, not in the camera area. So yarn in the front, slip the first stitch, and then purl all the way to the end. And this is the second row, and we're going to repeat these 2 rows 10 times each, which will make 20 rows all together. There we go. Mark it on the row counter and continue alternating these 2 rows until you have 20 rows done, and you will finish on the back with the row 20, and then all you need to do for the 21st row is knit through all stitches, and that will bring you on the back of the work like this, where we're going to turn the heel, and I'll show you how we turn the heel in the next segment. In order to turn the heel, we're going to have to do some short rows, and they're very simple. I'll show you how to do them step by step. We're going to start on the wrong side because we're left on the wrong side after the 21st row that we've done on the heel flap, and we're still going to work in the flat. And the first thing we're going to do is purl 12 stitches. So I'm going to start with purl 12. 1, 2, okay, now I'm going to purl 2 together, purl another one, and turn the work. The next row, I'm going to slip the first stitch, there you go, slip the first stitch, then I'm going to knit 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then I'm going to knit 2 together, knit another one, and turn my work. Okay, the third one, slip the first stitch, and we always slip as if to purl. Slip the first stitch, purl 6, purl 2 together, purl 1, and turn the work. You can already see that the work is turning. Slip the first stitch, knit 7, and you always know when you need to stop and knit 2 together or purl 2 together, because you have this gap in between the stitches. So we're going to knit 2 together to close that gap, knit another one, turn the work, and we continue doing this until we end up with 12 stitches on the right side. So slip the first stitch, purl 2, 8, and then we got to the gap between the 2 stitches. We're going to purl 2 together, purl 1, turn our work, slip the first stitch, knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. Here's the gap, knit 2 together, knit another one, turn our work, slip the first stitch, purl 1, 2, 10. We're going to purl the 2 together, turn our work, slip the first stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, and knit the 2 together. And now you want to count your stitches, and you should have 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 stitches on the right side of our work. And as you can see, our work turned. So we turned the heel, and now we're going to knit that way instead of knitting up. And that's the turning of the heel. And the next thing we're going to do is pick up stitches for the gusset, and I'll show you that next. The next step in the sock is picking up stitches for the gusset and doing the decreases. And I have here one sock where I've done that already. So as you can see, we're gonna pick up the stitches of the gusset along the heel flap, and then we're gonna do the decreases for the foot, and then we continue knitting the foot. So that's explaining the pattern, and I'll just show you how I do that. Easy, very easy. You finish turning the heel flap here on the right side, and now all we need to do is look on this side. As you can see, there's a series of V's going this way, and we're going to go under those V's and pick up 11 stitches. So the first one we twist, and you can't always see it, but it's right there. So I'm just going to go under. That's one stitch. Under the next one, 2, under the both legs of the V's, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, and then in the pattern it will say combine the next 2 needles together. They each have 10 stitches, which means we're going to knit all the 20 stitches on one needle. So you take your free needle and just knit all those stitches from the next 2 needles. Just knit them through. Okay, and then drop that needle and continue with the same needle that you have on your right hand for 10 more. So what we're doing now, we're going to get back into the triangle, but we're going to change the beginning of the round, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, so now we have 20 stitches on this needle. With a free needle, we're going to pick up 11 stitches along the other side of the heel flap, and you just look at the V's and go under and pick up 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And you'll be able to see all those V's if you slip the first stitch of every row when you are doing the heel flap. So we have 11 stitches, and then the next thing that the pattern will tell you is knit 6 stitches from the left needle to the right. So we're going to continue knitting for 6 more stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and now we're back in the triangle, as you can see. Here we go. And the beginning of the round is just in the middle of the heel. So this is the heel. The beginning of the round is right in the middle here. And we're just going to start the decreases for the gusset. And this is what they'll look like. So we're going this way, and then this work is just going to kind of like overlap that one with a knit two together or SSK. And let me show you how you do that. Every other row, obviously it will be specific in the pattern under the decreases of the gusset. So this is our first needle, and we're gonna start with knitting to the last 3 stitches, So on the first needle, we're going to knit to the last 3 stitches, and we have 17 stitches on each on first and third needle. That's 5, 6, 7. Okay, now we have 3 stitches left on the needle, and we're going to knit 2 together, and then we're going to knit the last one. So that's what you do on your first needle. Then for the second needle, we just knit all through the 20 stitches, just plain knitting. I have a feeling this is going to be a long video, but I hope it helps, because the previous socks that I did with DPNs, I kind of split them in many videos, and people quite like them all in one, and a written pattern. Now we're at the third needle, and for the third needle we're going to start with knit 1, and then we're going to do an SSK, which is a decrease to mirror the knit 2 together that we previously done on needle 1. So I'm going to slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, pull my left needle through both stitches, and just knit through the back loop. And then all I'm going to do is knit to the end of the round and of the needle that I'm holding in my left hand. So that's the round with the decreases, and then every other round you're just going to do plain knitting. So the next round it will be just plain knitting, then the third round it will be decreases again at the end of first needle at the beginning of the third needle, until you're left with 10 stitches on needle 1 and 10 stitches on needle 3, which will make a total of 40 stitches. And that's back to the beginning. We started with 40 stitches, and now we're going to knit the foot in 40 stitches, and this is what it will look like. So you're going to have, let's go like this. So you're going to have, now we have 16 stitches on these 2 needles, and you're going to have 10 stitches on these 2 needles. These stitches, they never change, they're always 20. And when you're done with the decreases and you have 40 stitches on your round, you just continue knitting the foot for the size you're knitting, and I will see you when we need to do the decreases for the toe and end up with the Kitchener stitch. Once you've knitted the foot of the sock and you're about 5 centimeters away from the tip of your toes, you're ready to start the decreases. And you could put the sock on, just put your foot through and see how long you need to knit it. If you're knitting for someone else, you can just measure with the measuring tape and see how long you need to make it, but give yourself about 5 centimeters to shape the toe with the decreases, and I'll show you how we do that. It is explained very well in the pattern. So this is the beginning of our round, is in the middle of the heel like we started after the gusset. So right here, that's the beginning of our round, and this is needle number 1. And in the pattern it will say knit till the last 3 stitches, so that's what we're going to do. So knit to the last 3 stitches. Here we go, 3 stitches left. It's not focusing, is it? There we go. And then we're going to knit 2 together and knit the last one. So that's the decrease on the needle 1, for needle 2, we're going to have to do decrease at the beginning and at the end. And in the pattern it will say knit 1. Then we got to do an SSK, which means I'm going to slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, put my left needle through both stitches and knit through the back loop. That's the decrease at the beginning of needle 2. Then I'm going to knit to the last 3 stitches. Here we go. We have 3 stitches left and I'm going to knit 2 together. This is not my very pointy needle. Okay, knit 3 together and knit the last stitch. And we've got one more decrease on needle 3 at the beginning of it. I'm going to knit 1, SSK, so slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, put my left needle through both stitches and knit through the back loop and knit to the end of the needle, which will get us to the beginning of the round again. So that's the row of decreases, and you decrease every other row, which means the next row, the next round, why do I keep saying row? Round number 2 is going to be plain knitting. So all you got to do is knit around over all the needles, and then we're going to do another round of decreases, and you keep doing 1 round of decreases, 1 round of plain knitting until you're left with 10 stitches on this needle. So 5 stitches on needle 1, 10 stitches on needle 2, 5 stitches on needle 3, a total of 20 stitches. And I got there with my other sock. Here we are. So I've got 5 stitches on needle 1, 5 stitches on needle 3 and 10 stitches on needle 2. And what we got to do now is combine needle 1 and needle 3 in one. So all you got to do, hang on, I didn't finish the round here, as you can see. I gotta finish the round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, sorry, I didn't see that. So what we got to do now is combine needle 1 and needle 3 in one, which means knit first needle. So I'm just going to knit like this. So I knitted the stitches on the first needle, and now I have just 2 needles to deal with, like this. And at this point we're ready to do the Kitchener stitch, and I'll show you how to do that. If you don't know how to do the Kitchener stitch, this is how you do it. So you leave yourself a tail, and then you're going to cut the yarn, and grab one of these tapestry needles. I have this one, it's plastic, I think it's by Clover, very, very easy to use. And you want to hold both of your needles like so, your yarn coming from the back needle. Oh, you got to thread the tapestry needle. So now we're gonna do some sort of stitching. So this is how I like to hold it, with my finger in between to kind of keep them a little bit separated. And with the yarn from the back, I'm going to go through the front as if to knit the first stitch, pull the yarn through, and I'm going to pull the stitch off. Then on the same needle, I'm going to go as if to purl, and I'm going to leave that stitch there. Then I go to the back needle as if to purl, pull the yarn and take the stitch off. Then as if to knit, pull it and leave the stitch on. Then I'm going to move back to my front needle, so it's as if to knit, off, as if to purl, leave it on, to the back needle as if to purl, off, as if to knit. I'm going to leave it on. Let me just speed this up to the end. When you're left with just 2 stitches on your needle like this, you want to go through the front one, take it off, through the back one as if to purl, and take it off, and you'll kind of end up with a little bit of a loop here that will just not want to stick. But all you gotta do is push it in with your needle like that. And tie it up with when you weave in the end. And I just want to show you what it looks like. As you can see, it doesn't look like we've done any stitching there. The stitches just blend into each other, both sides. And this is what it looks on the side, both sides. And then all you got to do is weave in the end and wash and block your socks. And they will need blocking because we have the lace cuff. But this is what they look like. Double pointed needles with the Wishbone Stitch. I hope you like it, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!